Hi, folks, welcome back. So, if you've been following me, you'll know that the impact of AI on productivity has been a long-standing fascination of mine, and I've covered a lot of papers on that topic on this channel. But I think this new paper from the folks at Harvard and Perplexity is really interesting because it tells us some new things about how really using more powerful agents affects not just productivity, but also the type of work that people have been doing. So let's dig in. This paper came out just today. I'm recording it on June 8th. Now, one really interesting thing about this paper is the fact that the authors here have access to real aggregated user data from Perplexity. And they have a pretty interesting slice of time as well. So, the 3 month period spanning essentially the last 3 months, February 27th through May 27th. And the other really interesting thing is that it also spans the full range of products, which, as time has gone on, have included deeper agentic functionality. So, this grounding in real world data in a real world product that has a lot of usage is the thing that really sets this paper apart. Now, this is a pretty long paper, it has lots of details, but I want to zoom in on a few findings that I found really interesting. But before we do that, we have to level set on the three Perplexity products they looked at and where they fall on the scale of agentic behavior. So the products they looked at were the answer engine, which is Perplexity's kind of older traditional product, which is essentially, I would say, RAG over the web. So synthesizing answers after doing a RAG-based search over web content. The next product they looked at was Perplexity's browser agent, which goes past RAG because this is situated in their own browser, the Comet browser from Perplexity, and is able to do web automation tasks in the browser. And then the third product, which is the one that has the deepest agentic behavior, is the recent Perplexity computer product, which essentially is a fully cloud hosted general purpose agent. So it's very similar to OpenClaw, except Perplexity will run it and host it for you in the cloud and make sure it securely connects to your data sources. But Perplexity Computer can take completely open-ended, general purpose, very complex requests. So over here, you see how you're going higher and higher up the ladder of more general purpose agents that can do longer, more complex tasks. All right, so the first headline finding is that people really like OpenClaw style general purpose agents. And this is reflected by the adoption growth of computer versus search queries over the same time period. So basic Perplexity search queries grew about 14x versus this general purpose computer product grew about 84x. And that is a huge difference. So people really adopted this aggressively. And then the next question is, well, what kind of tasks are people doing with it? And the interesting finding here is that as opposed to the early usage of things like Claude Code and Codex, which were completely focused on software engineering and coding, you see that people are doing a wide variety of tasks with this general purpose agent. So it's not just software. Yes, they are doing a lot of software, but also finance, investing, personal queries, marketing, general business stuff, healthcare. So you're beginning to see usage of general purpose agents go way beyond just technical and software use cases. All right, now this is, I think, the key finding on the topic of productivity. So they are looking at various tasks and comparing how long it takes to finish that task and how much it costs to finish that task when the human is using the search product versus the computer product. So this red bar shows time and cost using just search, and the blue bar shows time and cost using the general purpose computer agent. And you can see how with computer, the time and cost is much, much lower, and you have these really huge ratios like 25x, 17x, 18x, 10x. And this cost factors in the cost of the human, how much you would have paid the human for that much time. And what this shows is with search, which is not very agentic, it's essentially RAG over web search, you still had the human doing a lot of work, whereas with the general purpose computer agent, where the human is doing oversight of a much more complex task that is delegated to the agent, you see much more of the work carried out by the agent, resulting in this overall time and cost savings. So I thought this was an interesting finding because pretty much all the papers I've seen so far look at the time saved on a given task, but don't carry over that savings into dollars. And so kudos to them for counting that total cost. And here's the next finding, which also I think is really significant, which is that when given a general purpose agent like Perplexity Computer, people start doing work of a much larger scope. This is what this diagram is trying to show, that with this computer general purpose agent, people are doing work with this agent that is way outside their own specialty or their own job function. So people are using agents to increase the scope of their work, not just carry out their own narrow function in a more efficient way. And this is a really interesting finding. So there's a lot more detail in this paper that I didn't get to covering. I'd really encourage you to look at this paper in full if you're interested in that kind of thing. But that was a quick look at a paper from Perplexity and others on how access to a general purpose agent not just increases the productivity of humans, but also makes them do work outside their scope, more ambitious work. I hope you enjoyed that. If you like content like this, consider subscribing, like the video, and I will see you next time. Thank you.